NASA confirmed Thursday that the Voyager 1 probe has made history by becoming the first human-made object.
NASA says its Voyager 1 probe, the most distant human-made object in the universe, is sending usable information to Earth again.
More than 15 billion miles from Earth, in the frozen black between the stars, Voyager 1 is still alive. After months of silence and corrupted data, a signal came through, faint, delayed, but unmistakably real. Voyager 1, the most distant human-made object in existence, is transmitting usable data again. But what it's sending back isn't just a sign of life from a dying probe. It's a message that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the outer limits of the solar system. What started as a routine check-in became a shock. Voyager didn't just reawaken. It revealed something scientists weren't prepared to see, a repeating magnetic structure far beyond the reach of the sun's influence. Something organized, something patterned, something that shouldn't be there. The boundary between the solar wind and interstellar space, known as the Heliopause, was always believed to be chaotic, a turbulent transition where charged particles slow down and scatter. But what Voyager has found isn't chaos, it's structure. For the first time in history, a spacecraft has detected a large-scale, stable magnetic pattern beyond the heliosphere, a rhythmic, oscillating lattice that pulses like a heartbeat in the void. It's not a glitch. It's not noise. It's real. And it's massive. The plasma wave system on board Voyager recorded the structure across hundreds of millions of kilometers. It behaves like a coherent standing wave, layered through the interstellar medium, like ripples frozen in place, resonating through space itself. This wasn't just unexpected. It was heretical. Because every model we've ever built of interstellar space assumes it's roughly homogeneous. Boring. Random. Empty. But this pattern isn't random. It's not even subtle. It's organized. As if something, natural or otherwise, is shaping the plasma environment beyond our solar system. So the question now isn't just what Voyager found. It's what's doing the shaping. The leading natural theories are complex, but even they don't fit easily. Some scientists propose ancient supernova remnants, massive shockwaves from exploded stars that could have seeded this area with long-standing plasma interference. Others suggest we're seeing echoes of galactic-scale magnetic field lines or residual waves from reconnection events between our sun's output and deep space fields. But none of those models explain the precision of the lattice Voyager recorded. The geometry, the spacing, the frequency modulation. It looks less like turbulence and more like design. A small but growing group of physicists, many on the fringe just months ago, are now being taken seriously. They believe what Voyager found is more than just magnetic drift. They think it may be a signal, a byproduct of communication, not through electromagnetic waves like our radios, but through the plasma itself. This would change everything. Because if plasma, the ionized soup of charged particles between stars, can carry structure like this over vast distances, then we've overlooked an entire channel of interstellar communication. Not beams, not pulses, but standing waves embedded in the medium itself. Not messages we broadcast, messages that exist. The implications ripple out fast, not just for astrophysics, but for everything from cosmology to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. What if this lattice is common around stars? What if it's more than a byproduct of physics? What if it's a form of interaction? A natural sorting mechanism for particles, or an engineered structure to filter, protect, or observe? Because Voyager didn't just passively detect the lattice. Its instruments recorded particle changes as it crossed into and through the magnetic layers. Cosmic rays, high-energy particles that usually scream through space at near-light speeds, were bending, deflecting, even slowing down, as if they were being sorted. This selective behavior has never been seen before. It's as if the edge of our solar system isn't a wall, it's a membrane. And that membrane is filtering what gets in and maybe what gets out. If this is natural, it's the most sophisticated natural filter we've ever seen. If it's not, then something or someone built it. And that's where things get strange. In the structured zones, Voyager picked up a different kind of signal. Not particles, not noise, but radio emissions, low frequency, modulated, and directional. They didn't match any known solar activity. They weren't solar flares. They weren't emissions from nearby stars. They were quiet, layered, and perfectly timed with Voyager's traversal through the field. They weren't broadcasts. They were part of the structure. Imagine a radio signal that doesn't come from a transmitter, but from the geometry of space itself. This phenomenon, plasma resonance, has long been theoretical, but now it's real. And it could change how we think about interstellar travel, communication, and even the origin of matter itself. What Voyager has revealed is that space is not empty. It's not silent. And it's not simple. The interstellar medium is alive with pattern. But here's where it starts pushing into the frontier of what we can explain. The structure Voyager found isn't uniform. It's layered, stratified. There are zones where energy drops to nearly zero and others where particle activity spikes in strange, consistent intervals. And when scientists tried to model it, they found something disturbing. The wave pattern Voyager mapped resembles a three-dimensional spiral, a logarithmic coil, with harmonic intervals that mirror a Fibonacci sequence. That's not something you expect to find in a plasma field. That's something you expect to find in nature, in biology, in code. This doesn't mean aliens, but it does mean there's order. And that order raises a question. What if this lattice isn't just physics? What if it's a relic? The remains of something bigger, older, something from a time when the galaxy was younger and the stars weren't so quiet. For now, the mainstream explanation is cautious. NASA confirms the data, but hasn't committed to a definitive interpretation. Voyager 2, traveling on a slightly different trajectory, hasn't detected the same structure, but it might be too far off-axis. Or it might be that this pattern only exists in certain pockets of space, places we're just now beginning to map. What's happening now is a scramble. Reanalysis of Pioneer data, deeper dives into plasma readings from every deep space mission we've ever launched, and new proposed missions, next-generation Voyager-class probes, equipped with updated detectors designed specifically to map and decode interstellar plasma. Because now we know there's something out there. And whatever it is, it left fingerprints. The implications don't stop at science. They reach into philosophy, culture, the way we see our place in the universe. For decades, space was imagined as a void, a vacuum, a stage for stars and planets, not a character in the story. But Voyager's data says otherwise. Space has structure, and that structure may be older than the sun. There's a reason this is hitting hard. Voyager wasn't supposed to still be alive. It wasn't supposed to still transmit. It was designed for 5 years. It's been flying for almost 50. And now, after all this time, it may have delivered the most important piece of data any machine has ever sent home. Not an image, not a signal, a pattern, a question, and maybe, just maybe, a door. There's something deeply unsettling about realizing the boundary of your home, your solar system, isn't where you thought it was. It's like walking to the edge of your town expecting a crumbling fence, and instead finding a towering, shimmering wall humming with energy. A wall you didn't know existed, and one that seems aware of your presence. That's what Voyager 1 has done. It hasn't just charted coordinates. It's redrawn the map. A spacecraft built with 1970s technology, running on decaying plutonium and outdated silicon, has redefined the architecture of deep space. So what do we do with that? Some researchers are now pushing to rename the Heliopause entirely. Not the boundary of solar influence, but the transition membrane. Because what we're seeing is not a line. It's a zone, a region, a skin. And this skin breathes. Data shows the structure pulses over time, not randomly, but cyclically. There are intervals of energy flux. Times when the boundary becomes more permeable, more active. Almost like tides. These pulses don't match any known solar cycles, but they could match galactic ones. Perhaps we're feeling the breath of the Milky Way itself, the slow heave of its magnetized arms as they rotate through the galactic center. Or maybe it's something even older. A resonance seated in the early structure of the cosmos, only now detectable because we've finally reached far enough to feel it. What's even more incredible, Voyager may be surfing it. That's not poetic. The spacecraft's path has shown slight deviations, subtle ones, that don't match gravitational expectations alone. These deviations may be caused by magnetic coupling. In other words, Voyager isn't just passing through the field. It's interacting with it.
Think about that.
A human probe, drifting in the dark, might be responding to forces no engineer accounted for. And we might be able to use that. Interstellar navigation, not by thrusters, but by field alignment. Imagine spacecraft that don't push against space but ride it, like surfers catching waves of structured plasma. This isn't science fiction. This is 15 billion miles away, and it's happening now. And Voyager's still talking. Its onboard power is fading, yes. But its instruments, especially the plasma wave system, are still delivering data no one expected. Decades beyond its warranty, this craft continues to send back pulses that defy theory. That's not just resilience. That's historic. It's changed how future missions are planned. Already, engineers designing the next generation of interstellar probes are incorporating what Voyager has taught us. Hardened systems, redundant backups, instruments tuned not just for data collection, but for listening to a medium we never knew was speaking. And beyond the tech, it's affecting how we search for life. Because if these structures exist around other stars, and we now have reason to believe they might, then they matter. A lot. They could filter what enters a solar system.
Dust.
Particles. Radiation. Even molecules. They could be guardians.
Or gates.
If certain biosignatures are carried on cosmic dust, amino acids, complex carbon chains, then structured boundaries could influence how those ingredients seed planetary systems. In short, these magnetic fields might not just protect planets. They might shape what kind of life arises on them. It's a profound shift. Life isn't just shaped by what's on the ground. It's shaped by what reaches it, by what filters through the cosmic membrane. And Voyager somehow has brought that into focus. Now, some corners of the scientific community are going further. They're asking if these structures are messages. Not in the traditional sense, not words or images or sounds, but something deeper, a pattern of behavior, an embedded system that reveals itself only when you look at it the right way. Like a fingerprint in the noise, a key in the chaos. What if these fields are how civilizations mark their territory? Not with beacons, not with ships, but with fields. Shaped, tuned, structured. Not to be seen, to be felt. Only detectable by another intelligence once it's capable of measuring the right things, moving at the right speed, with the right sensitivity. And that's what Voyager has done. By accident. Or by destiny. Take your pick. But here's the twist. The real twist. This might not be the first time we've touched this pattern. Re-examined data from older missions, Pioneer, Cassini, even New Horizons, is turning up anomalies.
Faint.
Brief. Dismissed at the time. But now, in light of Voyager's discovery, they're being pulled back into the spotlight. A pulse here. A deviation there. Nothing definitive. But enough to make you wonder, have we been brushing against this structure for years and only now realized what it is?
If so, it changes our timeline.
Voyager didn't stumble onto something new. It finally looked at something we've been ignoring. And that leads to the most difficult possibility of all. Maybe it's not just a structure. Maybe it's a test. Not malicious. Not hostile. But intentional. A kind of threshold. Something you only detect once you're ready. Once your civilization is advanced enough to notice the patterns in the background noise. Once you've passed a certain level of awareness. Maybe that's what Voyager tripped. Not a discovery. A signal. And if that's the case, what happens next? Right now, no one knows. The data is still coming in.
Slowly. Carefully.
But the conversation has shifted. The questions being asked in closed-door briefings aren't just about plasma behavior. They're about intent. About agency, about what else might be out there watching, or waiting. And as the scientific community rushes to catch up, the world outside science is beginning to respond too. This story has captured something That rare mix of awe and fear, hope and uncertainty. The idea that just beyond the warmth of our sun, the universe might not be cold and empty after all. It might be awake. And if it is, we've just knocked on the door. Voyager didn't just extend humanity's reach. It changed how we see what's out there. Not as endless black, but as a field. A patterned, rippling, resonating field. And somewhere, far ahead, that field may be watching us back. If this revelation blew your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the next discovery, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Is this natural structure? Intelligent design? Or something else entirely? We're listening. And now, maybe something else is too.